This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bornini, and these are your headlines. Rain floods many areas of the country, a crime so shocking leaves 3 dead, and the economy is on the way up. But first, more from our main story. The volume of rain recently has been quite staggering. Heavy rain has pummeled many parts of the country, and residents, especially in rural areas, have been suffering. Some have had to evacuate their homes. But as we will see, it's not just the rural areas. Phnom Penh, Kampot, Battambang and Siem Reap have been seriously hit. This footage shows Siem Reap earlier this week. The footage is courtesy of Palin Rath. He captured how severe the flooding in Siem Reap was. The traffic in the centre of town came to a standstill as drains were overloaded by a deluge rarely seen before. The roads in the heart of the city at one point disappeared underwater, making commuting almost impossible. Food delivery companies halted all services as their drivers were simply unable to negotiate the flooded roads. According to a spokesman of the National Committee for Disaster, heavy rain has caused more than 40,000 hectares of rice fields to be flooded, with over 18,000 hectares destroyed. In Ratanakiri, 277 families have been evacuated to higher ground. It is known that the waters were so fierce that 3 people did drown in Pasat province alone. It is far from over, though, as there are millions of gallons of water yet to come. There has been some exceedingly violent and disturbing incidents in Chinookville of late, but one of the most recent happening this week seems to stretch credulity due to its level of brazen and brutal violence. It has all the elements of a Hollywood gangster movie, not of life, in what was once a sleepy seaside town. It was at about 1 a.m. that the 3 suspects grabbed 2 other Chinese men and attempted to force them into their car to extort money from them. But one of them attempted to escape. The suspects then started to brutally stab him, and if that was not enough, they then pulled out guns and opened fire at him, causing him to die right there on the beach. But this unbelievable act of violence was far from over. After killing one man, they forced the other victim into their car and fled with police forces in pursuit. The suspects drove at insane speeds towards Phnom Penh in an attempt to escape, but a police checkpoint blocked their way. The suspects refused to stop, but lost control and ploughed into an electric pole. The crash seriously injured the other victim, but the 3 suspects themselves died in the crash. Police searched the wrecked car and found a pistol, ammunition, a machete and handcuffs. So the late-night stroll by 2 men on what was once a safe beach turned into a savage killing where an innocent man was brutally stabbed and then gunned down. The other was kidnapped, and all just for the cash they had in their wallets. Do you fancy playing petrol roulette? Be a winner and you will get unadulterated fuel, and you will get the actual amount of petrol you paid for. But you have a near 30% chance that the petrol you buy will be from a petrol station that has not complied with legal regulations. According to a senior official at the Ministry of Energy, the MME, the percentage of petrol stations complying with legal requirements has increased to 73% after the petroleum law of 2018. Back in 2018, just 570 of over 3,700 petrol stations applied for permits. That is a paltry 15%. So the new figures are encouraging, but it does leave 27% of all stations operating illegally. In April, the CCF around Priya Vihir inspected 21 stations and found that 8 of them did not comply with the laws. That is 38%. And earlier in March, around Siem Reap, of 17 stations inspected, 7 were not complying with the laws. That's 35%. They are selling tainted fuel and or selling short measures. The best performers, the MME quotes, are stations run by companies such as Chevron and Total, who follow the law and comply with the regulations. A general manager at a Teller gas station said that those who rent premises and hire staff often lose money and are in financial trouble. And that is what seems to lead to the sale of substandard fuel. Early childhood education is at a crossroads, as parents are not enrolling their children into junior schools, and it is financial hardships that is the main reason for parents not giving much importance to early childhood education. This lack of early learning leaves many poorer children at a huge disadvantage. A report released by the government said financial struggles and lack of awareness amongst parents, as well as the lack of schools themselves in rural areas, are affecting early childhood education. The report adds that almost half of children aged between 3 and 5 are not enrolled in any form of education. A ministry spokesman said that the ministry is trying to persuade parents to enroll their kids, to emphasise the importance of an early childhood education. The numbers themselves are exceedingly low, with only 191,000 children aged 5 being enrolled in their local school. A father of a 3-year-old said, "My son is too young to understand education. He knows nothing about the value of early childhood learning. It is due to the fact also that his mother works, and my child will merely have to wait a few more years, and then we shall enrol him in a primary school." The county director of Plan International said that some parents believe that early education means only teaching dancing, colouring and physical activities. He added that they were wrong, since these early development classes help children in future education and are imperative to a child's early development. More good news in the world of business. Cambodia's international trade rose to nearly $33 billion in the first 7 months of this year, a year-on-year increase of over 20%. And the United States is the biggest market for the kingdom, accounting for nearly half of all total exports. From January to July, Cambodia exported over $13 billion worth of goods to foreign markets, the latest report from the General Department of Customs and Excise informs. The US remains the biggest market for Cambodian products, with 43% of the kingdom's total exports. That's an incredible 47% increase. The spike in exports to the US is remarkable, considering the still pending renewal of the Generalized System of Preferences. Vietnam and China were ranked 2nd and 3rd, importing $1.3 billion and $750 million worth of products from Cambodia, respectively. An economist at the Royal Academy of Cambodia told the Khmer Times that it was the early reopening of the economy that had helped the revival of the production chain. He said, "The trend indicates that the total trade will return to pre-COVID levels soon, but the garment sector itself has seen a drop, and that is due to the European crisis with the Russian-Ukrainian war." And now it's time to look at our sports news. It is the second week of the Premier League, and there were not too many upsets. That is, unless you're a Manchester United fan.
Crystal Palace held off Liverpool 1-1 and Tottenham managed to draw against Chelsea 2-2. Arsenal very convincing, a strong 4-2 win over Leicester City. But the major surprise is what's happening with Manchester United, being beaten 4-0 by Brentford. This compounds their problem, as losing both opening games, they're now at the very bottom of the table.
It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week.
Well, looking across the board, it's the same old, isn't it? Rain and yet more rain. So let's have an interesting fact. Did you know that the least rainiest place on Earth is no desert, it's Antarctica? It only gets 6.5 inches per year. I bet you wouldn't have guessed that one.
This has been the Khmer Times News. You can contact myself at the studio by mailing us at ktnewsstudio@gmail.com. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next Saturday for your weekly roundup.